Reality is often quite misunderstood by many people. And if you don't learn to see it for what it truly is, you may find yourself reacting to a version of life that is not related to who you really are and what you're actually capable of manifesting. And from reaction, only one thing can happen. You experience life as though it has control over you. 3D reality really only has one primary job: to show you what you believe about yourself and the workings of life. And when it doesn't seem to be going in your favor, it has a tendency to gaslight you into believing it's the only experience available. But the only thing you're ever really experiencing in 3D reality is a delayed interpretation of past thinking and stories that you've created for yourself in your mind. Why? Because it's a self-referencing loop. Your brain filters and organizes reality through previously established patterns. So instead of seeing all available options as your experience of reality, it predicts what's most likely to happen as experience based on those patterns, and then adjusts what you perceive to match that prediction. In other words, it's like watching a movie you've already seen before. Your mind already knows what's coming next, so it starts interpreting everything through that expectation. And that's why it feels like your reality keeps repeating itself. Your brain is showing you what it already expects to be true. You're not reacting to reality in real time. You're actually reacting to an old pattern that your mind once accepted. So what appears in front of you has become manifest from what has been accepted by you at a previous time. But it's not the whole truth of what's actually available for you. However, 3D reality does present itself as current. And it feels like truth because your senses confirm those old stories and patterns to you. But there's a way to look at reality that changes how you experience everything in your life. Most people see the world as something that they're inside of, something that acts on them and determines what's possible. And from that perspective, the role becomes reaction-based, and it gives all authority to the external world. If you observe, respond, and adjust to the outer world, over time it creates a pattern of conformity to whatever appears in front of you. And that's how people end up living inside of patterns that they never consciously chose. Most people learn to do this from an early age based on programming that they get, and the meaning that they learn to assign to a myriad of different things in those most impressionable years. But there's another way to understand this, one that completely reverses that relationship. There is this idea that life is structured more like a game, an environment that you enter into with a specific condition. And that condition is called limitation. Limitation that is designed to bring you back to your true nature, the nature of your God self. And limitation has a way of doing this brilliantly. Limitation serves a function. It creates contrast. It creates pressure. And it creates the illusion of separation. And through all of that, it creates the opportunity for realization. Realization to who and what you truly are. Because within limitation, you have something within you that remains constant. That is your imagination, your awareness. And if you're here watching this video, you are already well on your way to thinking like the God you truly are and overcoming limitation, if you haven't done so already. You were born with the ability to generate an internal reality independent of what is being presented externally. And because your brain grabs onto possibilities based on what it knows, you can use this ability of yours to give it new inputs so it generates new outputs in your life. In other words, you have to give your brain a new reality to grab onto with the use of your mind and imagination. The challenge in this game is beating your own mind at it. Learning that what you decide and create in your mind is the actual truth versus what the outer world is presenting to you if you don't like it. Because you have the absolute ability to think like God and change everything about your life. And the moment that becomes clear to you, when you test it and see the success of it, the entire structure of your experience of reality changes. Instead of seeing the outer world as the source, you begin to see it as an old model. A projection of old thinking and believing. Possibly even a catalyst into a new way of living. Because it's an output of what you previously accepted as true. And that can change at any moment that you decide to think differently. From this perspective, you can shift your role within the realm of experience. Most often, when a person commits to this level of understanding, they move from reacting to reality to interpreting it, and to giving it new meaning as necessary. From the perspective of mere interpretation, you can select what is true for you. In my coaching practice, I often see that this is where most people encounter resistance. The 3D can seem relentless on its own. In the early stages of this type of transition, it might even present itself with more things to resist as an attempt to reinforce those old patterns, to remain alive, and to pull the person back into its grasp. It likes to mirror past thoughts and beliefs, and it appears to carry emotional weight, and because of that, it holds influence. We form conclusions from observation of the 3D world based on our old programs and beliefs about life. So we decide what something means, or what it suggests, or what it might imply is possible. And from there, we create vivid scenes in our minds that align with those conclusions and programs. And those programs are often not things that we want to recreate and continue to experience more of. So the programs within you must be adjusted by you if you're ready to experience something new. And believe me, I get it. The old way of thinking often feels valid and logical and grounded in reality. But that's exactly what must change if a new experience of life is to be had. Because these things are simply still just interpretations formed from previous patterns and meanings. In my own life and my own growth process, I've learned to look at situations and ask myself, how would God think about this? Would God think of or feel any limitations regarding this experience? Or would God rearrange the experience in mind and decide that mind is the only truth there is? Let's talk about how to do this. A thought you have about something in the so-called outer world, or something you believe that is happening to you, is a response. That response arises from your perception, which arises from your previously programmed meanings. If the experience is something that you don't like, and the thought is something you also don't like, and that thought is left unattended, it then becomes an agreement with what is happening. If you don't agree with what's taking place, you must reform the thoughts that enter your mind when that thing happens. You interrupt the thought pattern and change the meaning or interpretation of what is taking place with your conscious mind in the moment it takes place. You must think differently to experience differently, and more specifically, you must learn to hold a position internally even when everything that you see is trying to move you out of it. Recognizing these types of thoughts and altering their meaning, rather than allowing them to have authority as truth, is what strips them of their validity in your life. And when you do this with consistency, you literally begin to override the 3D reality. This interrupts the sequence. And from there, a different action and different experience becomes available. Blaming the outer world and other people, playing victim to the circumstances at hand, telling the old story of what you don't like, only serve to continue the cycle of limitation as experience in your reality. Because once again, it's a self-referencing loop. But anything that you're experiencing is not a permanent fact, but rather a reflection of past acts within your mind. Your thoughts can be aligned, directed, and brought into agreement with something else anytime you choose. Something that exists internally. Your most preferred outcome. And if you remain there, your newly formed imagination becomes the central theme of your new life. So the point is to stop remaining asleep to the illusion that the physical world is more powerful or real than your own imagination, as consciousness is the only reality. Imagination itself is the core authority. It always has been. It's only that many people don't realize the massive influence it has on reality, and how to use it in a way that changes everything about your life. Imagination is not something abstract, it's quite literally the mechanism through which reality is formed. And the hints have been given throughout history. Albert Einstein said, "Imagination is everything. It's the preview of life's coming attractions." William Blake is quoted as saying, "What is now proved was once only imagined." Proverbs 23:7 reads, "As he thinketh in his heart, so is he." And Romans 4:17, "Call things that are not as though they were." To imagine something as real to feel it as established, to accept it as already true internally, is to define reality at its source. And from that position, the external world reorganizes and the experience changes accordingly. It must. But we must come from one single awareness to make this type of change. We must kick out any old awareness within us that contradicts the God power within. We must think the way God would think and ignore anything to the contrary, including old thoughts and old reflections in the outer world. As Neville Goddard stated, the old man is your former concept of yourself. It must be put off, and you must put on the new man. The old man is simply the version of you that your current reality is still reflecting. It's the version of you who thinks like that reality. If you don't like certain aspects of your life, ask yourself, do you want to continue to allow that old version of you to do the thinking for you? If your answer is no, you must become a new person with a new way of thinking to make this transition in your life. There is a discipline to this. It's the ability to experience something in the outer world and not move internally because of it. To see something and remain exactly where you've already decided to be in your mind without budging. I like to refer to this as unmovable awareness. You're not trying to change or fix the outer world, the old reflection. You're simply thinking of it as an old illusion and dominating it. And you do this on an internal level. It may try to suck you back into reaction for a time, but you simply hold up what I like to call the Buddha hand and tell it no thank you. It will only continue to do this if you agree with it. So the work actually becomes simple. You stop treating what you see as something that requires a reaction, and you start treating it as something that is already on its way out the door. From this view, the purpose of limitation becomes clear. It's actually there to assist you, even if it feels terrible to you in the moment. It's there to create a contrast between what is seen and what you are internally. It's there to move you into your God power. Because within that contrast, a choice becomes visible. You can align yourself with what appears to be happening in the outer world and give that authority over your life by reacting, or thinking negatively about it, or giving it meaning that doesn't serve you. Or you can think like God and align your imagination with what you prefer to experience over and over again until you see a shift. Because that choice alone determines the direction of your experience. Whatever is consistently accepted internally becomes the organizing principle of reality itself. Through this process, through learning who you truly are and proving to yourself what you're capable of creating and manifesting as experience, something is realized. You have never been separate from the source of creation. The power has always been within you. Your imagination has always been the primary source of your life. Your environment, the 3D reality that consistently uses everything it has to try to keep you believing that it's primary, to gaslight you into believing it's the only truth, has actually never been the one in control. It has always only been a reflection of you. And the entire structure of any limitation that you've perceived or experienced has served you by revealing that. If you'd like to go deeper into this, I've created a powerful God state hypnosis that takes everything we just talked about and installs it at the subconscious level, so your mind begins to operate from the place where you think like God and as the authority over reality that you were always meant to be. There's a link in the video description and pinned comment to that video.